In an idealized world, if we knew the complete nutrition for humans, which to some extent we do, you could choose to have a correct diet and get a pretty complete nutritional profile that would provide all that you need. The reality is that doesn't happen for most parts of the population. We don't have time, we don't have the knowledge, a number of different reasons. So unfortunately, particularly for people who perhaps maybe not quite so intelligent or are challenged in other ways, they don't have the money, it's difficult to make sure that they do to get the correct nutrition. And this is really where supplements come in. And particularly, there are a number of at-risk groups. So if you might like to think people like older people, pregnant women for instance. Sometimes people who are growing very quickly, like teenagers, needs particular things as well. So there are all these people that actually have specialist needs. And again, we can look at where they have a deficiency in their diet which can be remedied, which will be beneficial to them. If we want to take one particularly very big case that we've been working on, the whole country's been working on for some time, is the case of vitamin D. Now, people will tell you that all you've got to do is expose your front of your arm for 15 minutes and then you will get your hit of vitamin D for a day, because that's how it works. Your skin makes its own vitamin D, and it's much cheaper than going to buy a supplement. That's very true, but actually maybe what most people don't realise is that the sun is so weak in our country that for around about 6 months of the year it's actually not sufficient to produce the vitamin D that we need at all. So in fact you're getting nothing from the sun during those winter months. In fact, more than that, you're talking, let's say, the 6 months of the year. So during that time, you actually do need a supplement. If you don't, if you measure the vitamin D levels in your bloodstream, you'll find that by the time it gets through to the next summer, they've really gone down to really dangerous low levels. Now, you might say to me, well, why does that really matter? But the point is you need vitamin D, particularly to regulate good bone health and good bone structure. And if you don't have sufficient, one of the effects that will be is you'll get dysregulation of calcium, and your bones will become more brittle and much more liable to break. Now, this is particularly true for people who have originally perhaps lived in countries which are much sunnier and used to have a lot of vitamin D and have actually come into the UK. So for people who come in from, for instance, the Indian subcontinent or from Africa and now moved up to Scotland, they are suffering really badly now, particularly older females with broken hips, because their vitamin D is so low, and they have a lot of fractured hips, and this is really bad for them going forward. But it is a generalised issue. So fine. Even the government now has made recommendations suggesting that everybody should have, consider vitamin D supplementation. Perhaps the one area where we do have agreement on that. But if we go back a few years, we really didn't know that. Now you might say again, well, can I not get vitamin D from the diet? And yes, you can. Certain things, there are certain oily fish is an obvious one where you might get it from. And most people know cod liver oil, but they certainly wouldn't want to eat it. There's some mushrooms and a few other things where it comes from. But the point is, it's not easy to get, and it's not in the foods that most people like. So I think then it becomes a fairly easy choice, whereby even for people who perhaps don't want to really take a supplement, in this case, it's something which you can avoid some very unpleasant side effects. In fact, very easily remedy that with one very tiny little capsule. To give a little bit more information about folic acid and why it's important, this is probably also known as vitamin B9, but we're talking about women of reproductive age, and you might say, well, why do they need this material? Well, should a woman get pregnant, by about the 4th week of conception, the fetus then starts developing its various neural structures, and at that point, actually, what we call the neural tube, which is the area down the back of the backbone, starts to seal, and you need folic acid for that to happen. If you don't, then basically you don't get the sealing, and you get a risk of a neural tube defect, better known as spina bifida. Now, the incidence of this is not huge. We're talking of thousands of cases, but of course the effect for the children involved to get that is terrible. And the point is, it's almost totally curable by just making sure that those women who are at risk is not the right word, but really lucky enough to get pregnant, making sure that they had their sufficient folic acid levels before they actually get pregnant, so that they have those levels before they get to that 4th week pregnancy, then there's actually no risk of that occurring. So how can you do this? You can argue, I mean, most people don't go around planning to get pregnant anyway, some do, some don't. But one suggestion is that you might want to do this by actually putting it into the food supply. And you can, and the suggestion is that the traditional way of these B vitamins is to put into flour and baked products, and that can certainly be done. But maybe we want to think, diets are changing. Most of us don't tend to have so much bread anymore, so we might want to look at different ways of doing this. And again, the alternative can be, and this is again recommended by physicians, is that for people who are thinking to possibly have a child, then they'll make sure that they would have folic acid as well. But there's a debate here, because what you're really in a way doing is providing the whole, if you're going to put it in something like flour products, and everybody gets that, and we have to look very carefully and say, well, okay, what happens to perhaps very old people who have that all the time? Are there any negative points of view? So we have to be careful to make sure all the research is done for all age groups to make sure it's totally safe for them before, in fact, we provide the benefit for a fairly small part of the community, albeit in a very important way, because if we can have 2,000 or 3,000 less spina bifidas every year, that would be a fantastic thing to have, but it shouldn't be at risk of the rest of the community.
This is CRN UK's third year exhibiting at Food Matters Live. For us, it's a welcome opportunity to talk to members of government, academia, health professionals, and educate them on the role of food supplements. We also have 3 of our member companies exhibiting on the CRN stand, so that's Brunel Healthcare, Covance Laboratories and DSM. We will also be promoting a technical guide that we published last year called Technical Aspects of Manufacturing Food Supplements, and it's the only guide of its kind in the world. So we're looking forward to showing that.